And what's up? Welcome in GC Live. Wes Mitchell here. Chris Clark. Wednesday episode of the show coming at you live, of course, on YouTube, Facebook, and the Twitters. Also, after the fact, on all the major podcast platforms. Welcome in. See everybody, a lot of folks already in the chat, getting it going. So what's up to all of our loyal listeners and watchers? And, of course, I want to tell you before we get rolling about our good friend Clint Hammond. He is, of course, of the Mortgage Network right here in Columbia, South Carolina. If you're in the market for a new home, or maybe you just want to refinance your current mortgage and save a little bit of money each month. Actually, in some cases, save a lot of money each month. Give Clint a shout, 803-771-6933, or just go online. That is clinthammond.com, and Clint will get you hooked up there with a great interest rate. Still a great time to get a very low interest rate on a new home or, again, a refinance. So appreciate Clint being our primary presenting sponsor here on GC Live. Again, I'm Wes. He's Chris. Jam-packed show for you here today. We're going to talk a little bit of recruiting. Probably, I would say, recruiting heavy today. We're going to talk a little bit about the Rivals camp that we were at in Atlanta. Chris still feeling the effects of the sunburn on Sunday. And we'll talk a little baseball. And, of course, the news coming out actually, I believe it came out Monday, but after we had done the show, that Delaware quarterback Braden Davis, four-star kid, actually you would say has emerged as South Carolina's current primary target at the quarterback position. He'll be announcing this Friday, 6 p.m. on his Instagram Live. So, Chris, we're going to be recruiting heavy, and then I believe you also have a little just sort of fun side guest lined up for us, really for all the married folks out there who have been in the exact position as our 215 guest was last night.
Well, here's the thing, Wes. I was thinking about this earlier. It is definitely for the married folk like myself. I do think it's also for people like you. I don't think all of us who are married with children, or even if you just have children, like we've done something that we should not have done probably with a baby in our arms. All right, but the look that our guest received, we have all gotten. If you've ever been in a relationship, Wes, you have received this look. I have even seen this look dispensed to you when we've been together. When my wife and your girlfriend, when we've all been together hanging out a couple of times, I've seen the look. You've seen the look dispensed to me. Nobody wants to see that look. So we are going to have on to the show later McKinley Mac Styles with the help of Gamecock Nation on social media. It's a powerful thing. They helped me find him. For those of you that missed it, during the Citadel game last night, there was a ball hit into the stands, and I actually missed the first part of it. But Mac, my man, was holding a baby in the stands, holding his child, ran down the foul ball with baby in tow, and Mrs. Styles did not appear to be that happy about it. And so she gave what the announcers termed as the stank eye. My understanding from Mac is that everything is just fine and dandy at home, but he's going to come in and, we'll have a little fun with it. We'll have a little fan guest on. We should probably do more of that, Wes. And we're going to have a little Gamecock fan on. Mac is familiar with Gamecock Central. He told me that he's been on there for quite a while. And we're going to hook him up with a little surprise in a little while too. But, looking forward to having him on at about 2:15. to discuss his decision-making skills and if he's recovered at home by now.
So, Mac, I guess officially our GC Live fan of the day for his moment yesterday.
That's right.
But yes, he did get the look. But let me just say, he did not drop the ball. He did not drop the child. So it's actually a win in his eyes, I believe. By the way, shout out to James. I don't exactly know what a super sticker is. I think this is kind of like what do they even call the big tip thing? I don't know. Y'all know we just get on here and talk about sports. James, appreciate your tip there. We don't require them by any means. Anybody else that wants to throw some super stickers our way, whatever that is, we do accept them, I do believe. We also accept Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, whatever you want to throw our way. We accept them all. But Nathan says that his Manscaped kit just arrived, and he's a little intimidated and nervous. I don't know if Nathan is being serious or he's just commenting because apparently Manscaped is now an official partner of Gamecocks athletics. shout out to the folks in the marketing department over there who did a good job getting that one done. And they have gone Manscaped, apparently, based on what I've seen that they've sent out to some media folks, they've gone all in on the double entendres? Is that the words you use as far as Manscaped and the South Carolina mascot? So, they did not sort of have any nuance to this. Like there was they sort of went all in on it. So if I guess that's news. That's off-season news, but it has gathered some attention on the interwebs today, Chris.
It has, and they've never been one to hold back. And you're welcome, Manscaped people who are listening, for even more free advertising. If you would like to expose yourself, look at that, huh? If you'd like to expose yourself to even more of the Gamecock fan base,
oh man,
contact us. We will be glad to work with you. But no, they've never been shy. I'm actually a little bit hurt. I was wondering if, why that was media people that got it. I was wondering how that email was sent out. I'm offended that we didn't get one, Wes. I guess we're not in the chosen group there to get Manscaped emails. But whatever. It's fine. We still show love.
Yes, we do. And Nathan is dead serious. So Nathan, I hesitate to say this, but we're all family here. Let us know how it goes. Give us
not in too much detail, but let us know what you think.
Give us a review.
A very generic review.
Generic review.
Maybe a good or bad, yes or no. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, so before we get into quarterbacks, Chris, I'm gonna throw this question at you because James is actually one of your names as well, so it just works. But James, who threw us our super sticker, wants to know about defensive back recruiting. So, we're going to talk a little bit of quarterback. Like I said, we'll talk Rivals, Atlanta camp. But if James is going to throw us a tip, then we'll hit his question. So, Chris, I know you've maybe been a little more dialed in on DBs than I have. So what are your thoughts on the deal with DB recruiting right now?
Well, that's one. Here's sort of the funny thing, Wes, is that in the past, I remember we always would answer this question past few years under Will Muschamp. It was always, it seemed to take shape more in the summer, when you get a lot of DBs in camp. And that wasn't just a Muschamp thing. That sort of happens at a lot of different places. Defensive back's a position that you tend to want to see even more in camp. It's a little bit tougher to get a read on guys on film. You got bad film. You got film that's not really even focused on a DB. It's hard to see technique, movement, size, things like that. And this year, there's a little bit of that still, but obviously the number one factor that's been driving, defensive back recruiting and really recruiting in general, any position, is the holdup that we've had such this long layoff of in-person recruiting. And so with that set to be reopened in June, we're definitely going to see more defensive backs on campus, whether it's in camp settings. South Carolina releasing, I think, about 10 camp dates. There's a lineman camp, a 7-on-7 passing camp, and just some regular camp days. So we'll see more roll in. And then there's also some official visits that are either set or being set with defensive back targets. And the thing is that there's a pretty good core group of guys that South Carolina's after. You look in the 2022 class, Chris Graves from Florida is a guy that's already got an official visit set to South Carolina. Nikai Martinez is a guy that's expected to visit South Carolina. You look in-state, you got a guy like Jaden Lucas from Malden that, South Carolina's a little bit behind on right now. I think that's certainly fair when you look at, Clemson. I think North Carolina's probably ahead some there. But Torian Gray was, the first guy to offer Jaden Lucas when he was at Florida. And so there's a good relationship there. So I certainly think South Carolina is going to, at the minimum, be able to get Lucas back on campus under this new staff and just see where things go from there. But there's a bunch of names on there. I mean, you look at DQ Smith right there from Spring Valley, who may end up playing quarterback in college, is sort of preferred position, but South Carolina and some others intrigued by him as a DB. You got Nick Cole out of Florida. You got Darko Perkins McAllister from Nashville, who's expected to take an official. Javonte McClendon from Lakeland, Florida, expected to take an official. So pretty big group and pretty talented group that's already sort of some of those guys locked in for visits, some they're still trying to lure, but there is a good group. And I think Torian Gray is going to lure several of those guys to campus this summer, and how it shakes out from there, we'll just have to see.
Yeah, and Chris, this is a situation where, I think Torian Gray has proved time and time again he can land big time defensive backs. And I think if you're a Carolina fan, I'm most encouraged by the fact that he recruited really good prospects, really good players at Virginia Tech. I think, we've seen coaches do it at a place like Florida. And let's be honest, especially if you're not in a situation where you're like rolling, it's one thing to be recruiting at South Carolina when you're coming off of 11-win seasons. It's another to be recruiting at South Carolina when you're coming off 2-win seasons. So there's a difference there. But you look at a guy like Torian Gray, he did it at Virginia Tech. He consistently was able to land players. Sometimes they're highly recruited. Sometimes it's about going out and getting a guy who maybe isn't quite as highly recruited, but ends up turning out to be better than expected. So I really I liken it a little bit to what we would say about Des Kitchings when he got to South Carolina. And it was just, there's a proven track record of this guy always taking care of his position. And that's what I look at as far as coaches at the college level and how I sort of judge them almost as far as hires go. I look at Torian Gray, I look at a Justin Stepp and I say he's always taking care of his position group. Now, that can be a combination of things. That can be landing the highly recruited guys. That can be landing the under-the-radar guys. That can be landing the raw athletes and developing them. There's probably a combination there. But if you take care of your position group consistently, that means there's a pretty good chance no matter what program we drop you in, you're going to be able to take care of business. So will it happen right off the bat? Is he going to go out and land a couple of 5-stars this year? Probably not. But is it something where as time goes on and relationships continue and maybe players see some progress on the field, maybe so. That's a thing where I think it goes back to, and we're going to start sounding like a broken record, so I'm not going to go into depth on it, Chris, but getting guys on campus and letting them actually see these facilities and meet the staff in person is an absolute requirement, because I'm of the belief it is nearly impossible to sign difference-making type prospects coming off of a 2-win season without having the ability to get them on your campus. You are just fighting such an uphill battle. So June, massive for South Carolina. And the thing I'm noticing, man, more and more, these kids that have waited, have you seen some of the June visit schedules that these kids are rolling out there? It's like, June 1st, I'm here. June 7th, I'm here. June 11th, I'm here. These kids are cramming in the June visits. The June official visit is still a relatively new thing.
Yep.
That hasn't even been happening very long.
Yeah.
Hasn't been available. It used to only be the fall. Well, it became a thing a few years ago. And now that these kids have gone so long, and some of the guys are saying, well, I'm going to do my unofficials in June, and I'm still going to take officials in fall. That's still a thing. But, dude, it's not just South Carolina getting these guys in June. How many kids have you seen that have like 4 or 5 official visits locked in? We were talking, by the way, some news comes out yesterday, I think, worth mentioning. A kid by the name of Ramon Brown from Virginia, 4-star running back. This is a kid, Chris, you and I haven't really necessarily – I don't know if we've ever really written much about him, because it was kind of a thing where South Carolina was trying to become a bigger factor with him. And there's always a shift in your recruiting board when you have a new coach. So, I think there was a certain sort of list of guys Des Kitchings was after as running backs coach, and a list of guys that sort of now Montario Hardesty has tried to become a bigger factor with. So I think you sort of look at that shift, and there's been several guys maybe that he's been working hard to try to get South Carolina in position with. And then you see the news come out yesterday that South Carolina is going to get an official visit from Brown. Well, guess what? West Virginia on June 4th, Penn State on June 11th, Maryland on June 25th, and taking a VT official visit as well. So that's sort of an example. These kids are like just locking in these officials, and they're going to have super busy Junes. And if you're South Carolina, you got to find a way to blow them away comparatively to the other places that they're at. So we'll get back to some recruiting in a second. Chris, I see your guest is there. You want to take it from here?
Yeah, Matt, can you hear us all right? You're not on yet. Just give us a thumbs up if you can hear us. That was pretty dumb for me to ask when you weren't even on the stream yet. All right, Matt Stiles is in. How's it going, man? Thanks for joining us.
Hey, no problem. Good to be here.
Absolutely. Join us on short notice. Thanks for your time. So Matt Stiles, of course, we sort of introduced you earlier on the show, man. You are going to be our sort of unofficial GC Live fan of the day for your performance at the game last night. That was a pretty funny moment there, and just wanted to bring you on and have you talk about it and frankly give you a little bit of a hard time. It was sort of funny. A lot of people are actually talking about it on social media, all Gamecock Central. So first of all, you're at the game last night. Carolina baseball, you've been on Gamecock Central as a free user for a while. You told me, I think have you been around since the inception of Gamecock Central?
Pretty much. 99 is when I actually joined officially. But I was aware of it, obviously, since 1998. I've had several emails with Brian Shoemaker over the years, back before Facebook and MySpace and all that, when that was kind of your only way to communicate with other fans about, like, sporting activities and events.
Yeah, there you go. So you're at the game last night. First of all, was that your first time at Founders this year? Or have you been going pretty regularly? And what are your thoughts on the atmosphere, the team, and sort of, just how the atmosphere has evolved from the beginning of the season right in the midst of COVID and everything?
So we went the opening weekend on the Saturday game. And so obviously they've opened up more ticketing, and the berm and all that's kind of been halfway full when I've been since then. We went to the Arkansas game, the first game of the doubleheader on Friday. And then I've also gone to a midweek game. I think it was Charleston Southern. So I've seen it from the good seats behind the dugout there a couple of times, and didn't really expect foul balls to come over that net like they did with that high arc. So kind of caught off guard because I was actually looking on my ESPN app at the time for some stuff related to like the broadcast, and there comes the ball, and I just had to instantly react, not even thinking what I was doing.
Right. So that's what we were talking about before. I was actually watching the game while I was working, taking care of some stuff on the site. So I missed a little bit of it, other than you're walking back to your seats with your child, ball in tow, right? So
Right.
as you said, pretty instant reaction.
Yeah, I was in position. I was camped under it, almost like Josiah Seitler was last week on that one that was at the wall, and then I'm not trying to break hearts, but the camera on the broadcast only got me coming back with the ball in my hand and the baby, still in good shape. So it kind of didn't catch all what led up to that moment and why I was grinning so loudly at my wife.
So that was the biggest, that's what everybody was talking about on the broadcast. I know you told me earlier when we were exchanging some messages before you came on that basically that you had gone back and watched the broadcast and you heard about the stank eye and everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That is for anyone married or in a relationship, whatever. It's a look you don't want to see.
Right.
Tell us about it. What was the reaction like, and how quickly were you able to recover?
So, like I said, I heard the crack of the bat, looked up, and then now the ball is like coming right at our row. And, a lot of times when you're in the stands and you see a foul ball coming, you think, oh, it's coming right to me. And then it ends up like a section over. But this one was like, it was no doubt about it. It was coming right to us. And I just had to step over a couple seats to my right to get underneath it. And with having the baby and my cell phone in the one hand on my left side of my body, I was like well positioned, had the bread basket open with my right hand and popped me right in the palm and just kind of trickled off to the right. So immediately my instinct was I can't let somebody else get the ball that I just failed to catch. So I jogged over there real quick to the end of the aisle, and it bounced off the seat in the section next to us. And I leaned over. Luckily, I didn't hit the baby's head on the railing or anything. got the ball, and then my wife was like, "I can't believe you just ran down the aisle, shaking our baby all the way." Um, Protective Services is gonna see that on TV and come ask you some questions. But yeah, there was a cold stare for at least 30 seconds of like, are you thinking when you do stuff like this, you realize you did have a 6 month old in your hands this whole time, and really not super secure because, like I said, I had my cell phone in addition to the baby. So that was just that sports instinct of like, see ball, get ball. Even if you don't catch it, pick it up and throw it in. Maybe you can cut off the runner going home or something. That kind of thing. So the recovery element was like, I was more worried about everybody looking at us from behind. I was like, can you not be loud about what you're saying to me so that people don't like necessarily, call the text line to report me for like mishandling a child or whatever. But then we got I guess a couple more outs, and then in the bottom half of the inning, we watched the rest of that inning specifically, and then it was time to go because the kids are little. We have a 4-year-old and a 6-month-old, so it was their bedtime anyway.
All right, but everything's fine now. You've recovered.
Yeah.
You're good. Hopefully, I have not gotten you in even more trouble once your lovely wife finds out that you've now come on a broadcast and broadcast everything that happened. Hopefully, I don't get you in more trouble. But no, I appreciate it, man. Funny stuff there. Glad that you were able to get the ball. Glad that the baby is okay.
Yeah.
Understandable situation. I think we can all relate to it. With the see ball, get ball. With oops, I did that with a child in my hand. Some people can relate to that, and certainly with the reaction there, I think we've all gotten that. So yeah, appreciate you very much for coming on. And hey, listen, we thank you for being around on Gamecock Central since 1998. We were talking before the show. Right now, you're not a premium subscriber, so what we want to do, shoot me a DM after you hop off here. We'll be in touch more. We're going to hook you up with a premium membership to GamecockCentral.com. So now you can check out all of our content if that's something you're interested in. Just as a little token of our thanks for coming on and bearing your soul to us today.
Well, I appreciate it. And let me give a shout out to my wife's cousin, Carrie. He's the one that ID'd me on your tweet. So it was someone in the family that, is obviously a big fan of you guys, or he wouldn't have been right on top of that immediately.
Yeah.
So he sold me out, but, it was all in good fun, I'm sure. And it's not the first time that a situation like that has happened. Invite me on in the future, and I'll tell you about 2015. There was a really interesting ESPNU and SEC network weekend that was had by my wife. Was a part of that one, but I was more the star thanks to Kyle Peterson or whatever, and Dari Noka. So.
But please go ahead. I mean,
I think we need to hear this now. By the way, I gotta say, Mac, I thought you caught the ball. So
yeah, that's the legend right there.
Yeah, on the broadcast, it appeared that you had caught it in the air because they didn't actually catch it. So we are learning new things today. But I think Chris is right. We got to hear what happened last time as well when we got you.
So yeah, in 2015, we were an average team under Holbrook. I don't remember if we made the playoffs. We were like 35-24, but we had Vandy on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday weekend. That was back when they just had random Thursday, Friday, Saturday games just because of the SEC network. It wasn't anything big time because I don't think we were ranked maybe. But Vandy came in probably ranked number 1. We lost the first game on Thursday like 12-0. So then got tickets for games 2 and 3. So Friday night, Saturday night. Took the wife on Friday. It was cold and raining. So it was kind of a miserable night anyway. And then we were down like 2-0 in the 5th or the 6th inning. We were on the top row of the section over by the third base concession stand. So I was, near the top, had a good view. A foul ball, I think, by a left-handed batter from Vandy. And, I jumped up, got up on the concourse area there near the concession stand, measured it, had 2 hands, no baby in tow this time. Ball went like straight through my hands. Maybe it was the rain, the lights or something. Plunked me on the head. I did a back somersault. They caught that one like pretty much instantly as it was happening from that same camera angle over there on the first base side of the stadium. So that was replayed, instantly. I started getting text messages and Facebook messages and all this other stuff blowing up, thinking, what's going on? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh God, you were on TV, and are you okay? And how's your head? That kind of stuff. And then I found out later that it was on like Sports Center, or at least the SEC version of that. Like they recap all the games and stuff from that night. And so, I was embarrassed. I'm sitting down there in the stands with no ball, because the ball rolled off the side where near the river, so there was no ball to run after. But I think one of the ushers maybe came and like gave me like a sympathetic foul ball that he had kept or something. So I did go home with the ball. It just wasn't the one that hit me in the head. So here I am. I got this sad look on my face. They caught that on camera and put that on the broadcast right after that happened. They didn't show the jubilation of me getting a free ball. So then that's the end of that night. I'll get all the accolades and like, hey, are you okay, kind of stuff. The next day I go out there. It was like a day game, and instead of being behind the dugouts, I decided to watch it from the berm. So I'm like standing out there on the foul pole, and Vandy's hitting, and they had some guys that could hit bombs like nobody's business that year in 2015. And they launched one that came right past the fair pole, the tall yellow fair pole, and I'm kind of deep. I'm not like right on the front of the fence, but I'm like kind of back at the back of the grass, and it's coming right for me right there too. Another two-hander. I don't think I had my phone. Maybe I had my phone in my hand. Maybe that caused some conflict. Two-hander busting me in the hands, tips over my shoulder, goes into the bushes. I see these kids racing for the bushes. I'm like, not on my watch. I didn't get that one last night that rolled off the concourse. I'm going into those bushes. So I didn't shove a kid, but I dove into those bushes to get that ball. I didn't, I know there was a video a couple years ago of a really big kid that pushed another kid on the berm, and they like made a big deal about how some man like abused this little boy to get a foul ball. But I was, and it was a Vanderbilt home run. It wasn't that big of a deal, but it's one of those instincts. Like you make a mistake trying to catch it, and you're not going to like let someone else have your mistake. So, I came out of the bushes with that one, and it looked like I caught it, right? Because they didn't catch the home run. They just caught the aftermath. So anyway, so then Kyle Peterson is like, hey, isn't that the same guy that, that got doinked in the head last night? And they were like trying to confirm, going back through the video footage from the previous night. And they're like, yeah, I recognize this. He has the same hat on. And so, they pegged me from their memory from the previous night. So, so in that 2-day span, people thought that I got redemption by catching the home run ball after getting busted over the noggin by the foul ball the night before. The funniest thing to that story is since we beat Vanderbilt that day on both nights, or both day and night, I did what any diehard fan would do, and you throw the ball back of the opposing team's home run. So, so that made me feel better to throw Vandy's ball back onto the field. I don't know what they did with it. They probably use it in batting practice the next week. But I've gotten my fair share of foul balls, just none of them that were like broadcast. And I don't know why they keep catching me when I'm missing the ball, because there's one instance in like 2017 at a super regional or a regional. I was sitting up on those picnic tables down the third base left field side, and I caught a screaming foul ball like it was 100-mile-an-hour velocity, and I caught it one-handed, and there were no cameras on that game. So, what are you going to do? I guess when the lights are on, I just kind of fail to perform. But when nobody's witness to it, I can make the plays. So that's why I sat the bench in high school.
Baseball magnet, though. Good grief.
Man, I know.
So
that is I was going to say that's an amazing rate of foul balls. I mean, I've been to lots of baseball games. I don't know if I've ever even had a foul ball come close enough to me to catch, just for whatever reason.
Right.
You were a magnet, but no, just to clarify, I was going to ask you if you have actually ever nabbed one. You have?
I have nabbed one, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've gotten one at a Blowfish game too, like at the old Capital City Stadium. So
okay, so cameras are not around.
There's some wins in that column as well, but there's just a ton of L's.
Well, here's my hope. There are more and more cameras. First of all, more games are televised nowadays. More and more camera angles generally. So hopefully the next time, which will probably be the next game you go to, when you have a foul ball hit to you or a home run ball, hopefully you can make a snag, and we are definitely all going to make a very big deal about it when that does happen. So we have faith.
But I will not take my glove because I am a man, and I don't take my glove to a baseball game. I don't wear jerseys either, Tim Hill.
Oh, nice.
So anyway, shout out to F3 Nation, by the way. Stampede and Jumanji, I think, are tuned into this one just because word gets around quick on Twitter, as you probably know.
Especially in the F3 channels. Yeah, good stuff, man. Yeah. All right, Mac. Well, we're going to let you run, man, and get back to your work day.
All right.
Awesome stories. Really appreciate you coming on. By the way, your background with your office there, much better than mine, far superior. So got the family in there. You got your Gamecock stuff, very well structured. A+ on the background. There it is for everyone. A+ on the stories. Really enjoyed having you on, man. And for real, we're going to hook you up with that Gamecock Central Premium membership. And hopefully you enjoy that too. So
I appreciate that, guys.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Thanks for coming on, and we will have you on. When's the next baseball game? After you catch the next foul ball, we'll have you on.
Yeah, let's shoot for Appalachian State in a couple weeks.
Okay.
I'll be there that night.
Try to catch it this time. Maybe let your wife have the baby for the duration of the game.
There you go. Shot. Sounds good. Good plan.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, see you guys.
Matt. Appreciate you coming on, man. Man,
baseball magnet is my takeaway. Good grief.
The stories that Mac had, I absolutely love like the dry humor of Mac.
Yes, that was good. Our first ever fan of the day here on the show, so that was good. Who knew he had this other background though? Like, wow.
God, can we find if we could find the clip of him?
No, I remember. I think I remember watching some dude shove some kids in the outfield, and now we're learning it was Mac the whole time.
Yeah, that's absolutely wild.
Jamie Shaw says he brings gloves to baseball games and he wears jerseys. So, all right, we're gonna do a poll here right now, live. At what age is the cutoff for wearing jerseys for men at games? It seems to be more accepted in hockey for whatever reason than baseball or football. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to have Panthers like replica jerseys and then those T-shirts that are made like jerseys that I wear all the time. But there does seem to be there's a rule. Some people follow, some people don't, about adults wearing jerseys. So I'm curious, where's the cutoff, and are you in or out on jerseys? That's our poll of the day. But anyway, we got to get to some real content here. We've been saying we're going to talk quarterbacks for a minute here, and Chris, let's tie all this together. And we talked a bit about quarterback for South Carolina on Monday because it was such a big topic on Twitter, on Gamecock Central. And it has remained a topic to an extent. And even so we see all the chat comments during the show. Well, then sometimes after the show, people come in and they make comments on the YouTube page. Generally, they're a little more negative when they leave the comments after we're done talking, I've learned. So I want to respond to something. And this is not even like, I don't want this to come across like us being defensive, because it's not. I want it to come across like we're not going to run from a comment. We're going to respond to it and give our take or give our side on it. So there's been so much talk about this quarterback thing, man. And the thing is, it's not even a thing. Like, there is no quarterback controversy at South Carolina right now. And so here's the comment right here. And it was much longer than this. I'm not going to pull the whole thing up. But the part that I wanted to respond to was Andrew here on our public YouTube said, why are you guys constantly completely defending Doty and on the other side trying to qualify Jason Brown's play? Give us all a break. Jason Brown has a stronger arm, better accuracy, more maturity, better decision-making. And then he goes into some detail about the screenplay that we were talking about yesterday that was out of sync. I'm lost on this whole quarterback thing because to me, for one, Luke Doty has played 2.5 games and a spring game that we've been able to witness. So I don't know how anyone has been constantly defending something when we haven't even talked about Luke Doty hasn't even had a career yet for us to be constantly commenting on. Like this is like the very first part of the Luke Doty experience.
Yeah.
So there haven't even been enough comments for us to be constantly doing anything. 2, if you're defending something, that means to me like someone threw 5 interceptions in 2 games and you're having to defend their play. Luke Doty was 5 of 7 in the actual game part of the game. Maybe missed a throw here or there, had some good throws, was completely limited by not being able to run the football. That was a part of what they have sort of tried to do this spring. So I don't know where the disconnect is with a portion of the fan base right now with the whole quarterback situation, because this is not the same coaching staff as last season. And we get this constant thing from some people where when we say something, it's like people go back to what happened last year. And it's a different coaching staff, different quarterback coach, different head coach. If you believe the quarterback position was mismanaged in the past, you can believe that. But you don't have to put that on the current staff. And right now, Luke Doty is the top quarterback. And it's not really even close based on what the coaches saw from the totality of the 15 practices. That comes, Chris, as you know, from both what we all have seen publicly and what we've been told privately. So Colton Gauthier is the number 2 quarterback right now. Now, can Jason Brown have an outstanding summer? Could he work his tail off, learn this new playbook, and compete, to get into that backup role? That's what you want if you're South Carolina. You want him to step up and compete for the top role. Mm-hmm. But I'm not trying to sound like I'm like preaching. It's just crazy to me that the quarterback position always tends to receive some controversy.
Yeah.
Even if there's not a controversy here based on literally 15 throws combined between the 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I think why this happens, I don't know. I think this is what I wrote this morning. This is how I feel about it. Even though we can all beat into our own heads and even try to mention it in preparation for watching the spring game. Like I think before you go into a spring game, you have to like mentally prepare yourself of do not make too much of this, especially this year. 23 guys that were going to play are out. The structure was totally different. You've got walk-ons at DB out there. I mean, there's just all these different things, right? So even though we tell people that, I have to tell myself that a lot, Wes, the temptation to make too much of something it can be overwhelming. And so when Jason Brown goes out there and he shows that quick release that everybody's talked about, we've noted it's a positive trait to have. And he throws a couple touchdowns, and Doty's not super sharp in that practice, in that setting. Doesn't go up and down the field 5 times, whatever people's expectations were relatively. When that happens, then that creates Jason Brown looked like the best quarterback. And then if that happens, well, why wasn't Jason Brown the starter? Well, it must be because of this or that, right? And so then that's where we get there's got to be some reason, right? Here's the reality of the situation. And again, I'm not like you, Wes. I'm not trying to sound preachy either. There were 15 practices. That was one. It was the only one we got to see all of, and that was televised. And so that one's going to it's going to have the most discussion. It's going to prompt the most discussion. It's going to be dissected the most. And everybody's hungry right now to dissect some football, right? But that was one practice. And so here's one thing to know. And if we're trying to project things and ask the question, well, why is that? Here's a why question. And I'm not trying to pile on anybody, but I'm trying to be fair about the situation, accurate, and also fair to a guy like Luke Doty and Colton Gauthier and Connor Jordan and Jason Brown. They've had 15 practices. Luke Doty was the first guy out there. Colton Gauthier was the second guy out there for the spring game. The coaching staff didn't just pick the order out of a hat, right? So that's what was reflected. They've gone through 15 spring practices. Some people have speculated that Jason Brown should be the starter, or it's just a matter of time. The coaching staff really wants to make him the starter. I know that's not much of Gamecock Nation, but there are some people who've said that or intimated it.
And Tyrell had a good point here, Chris. I don't want anybody to think we're saying, like, because we're pointing out a comment that person is speaking for anyone or for everyone or anything at all. It caught my attention when you say that we are on here defending someone. Our job is not to defend anyone, and we're not going to try to defend anyone. Our job is to try to hopefully provide you some context and some insight on both what we see, but also what we hear. So this, and I don't think we're making this up. This has been a big conversation on Gamecock Twitter and on our message, but there is a huge thread right now of people going back and forth about if Jason Brown is actually the projected starter. And again, like you said, dude, nobody here is trying to go negative on Jason Brown either. Not at all. He did make some really good throws. You can say, wow, he stepped up and made some good throws. But you can also, the two sides can be true. He made some great throws, but Luke Doty has had the better spring, I think.
Yeah. And so it's about the totality. So if the staff wanted to, if he was the starter or if he was making that big of a push, all we're saying, Wes, is that after 14 of those spring practices going into 15, probably would have been maybe the second guy out there or something like that. So, and to go back to Doty, I think we've both written and talked about, Wes, since the spring game or throughout spring, there's a lot of things Luke Doty has to work on. But it's not fair to only point out the good about Jason Brown, which he did do, like you said, man, some good things in the game, but don't dismiss the rest of spring practice. And I'm not saying he played poorly in the spring. He did get a late start, right? And this isn't a defense either. This is a fact. He got a later start. He was out for some practices at the beginning. Big transition based on level and total difference in style of offense. So as you said earlier, maybe throughout the summer and preseason, he's able to harness those physical tools that he has, keep learning, keep progressing, and move up. But I feel like it is a storyline because, for instance, I went back to watch a play on the spring game, and I found it on YouTube earlier. Just the easiest way to find it. The very first comment on there, Jason Brown should be the starter. This is the first comment on there. So while this isn't representative of the whole fan base by any means, it has become sort of a hot topic, a hot take. And so it's something definitely worth addressing. But I do think it's just from a factual basis. Right now, Luke Doty's the starter. We have both been told, Wes, independently, and the evidence was sort of there in the order that the quarterbacks came out in. Colton Gauthier did some really good things this spring. He's a big kid. He has competitiveness. He can spin the football. He can throw the football. There's some things to like there. So I wouldn't really write off, either of those guys. In the quarterback race, more specifically for the backup, I think Luke Doty is still going to have the inside track, but as Shane Beamer said, nobody's anointing Luke. He's got to keep playing well also and has to maintain that spot.
Well, and the very first thing we said Monday was, hey, look, the the comment here is really not any different than what was said at the beginning of the spring. A little bit different wording, but at the beginning of the spring, it was, look, Luke Doty is the number one quarterback right now. It's going to be up to everybody else to catch him. Luke Doty, the comment after spring game, Luke Doty is the starting quarterback. Then in sort of different words, but same deal, it's going to be up to everybody else to catch him. So, I think it kind of remains where it is. There's always going to be competition at every position. I think, like we said, Chris, we can't even dismiss the fact when we start talking the way everybody is, just taking a few plays and saying, oh, that guy should be the guy. You're also not being fair to Luke Doty, but you're not being fair to the spring that Colton Gauthier has had either. I think people see within the program that this kid has come in and really hit the ground running as far as what he's done, what he's showed for the future of the program. And, we talked quite a bit about the fact that he had, 4 different offensive coordinators in like 4 years in high school. So now is finally under the same roof of as far as one scheme that he can sit down and learn and actually get comfortable in. So I think the better takeaway about the quarterback position, or the bigger takeaway about the quarterback position, is I actually think you maybe feel a little better about it than you did going in, because my takeaway was that physically all the guys can deliver the football. There were throws that all 3 of the scholarship guys, even though Connor Jordan was out there third, he didn't really get a ton of time on the field as far as opportunities to get the football out. I think maybe there's a 3 and out, so he didn't have as many opportunities to let it loose. But all the scholarship guys throw nice catchable balls and have some sort of pop as far as how the ball comes out of their hands. So I thought that was maybe the biggest overall takeaway for me.
Yeah. I mean, and look, this isn't a situation where I think nobody feels outstanding about the quarterback position. You would feel outstanding if you had, say, a guy, returning who had won a bunch of games, had started 25, 26 games or more, and was projected to go play this season and go be a first-round draft pick next year. That with a really talented stable of backups behind him, like that's your ideal situation, right, as a fan or as a coach. And South Carolina doesn't have that. But what they do is they have some guys with some different skill sets and some interesting talents and some abilities. And so from here, it's going to be about continuing to improve and harnessing those things. And I think all of them have different things to work on. For Luke Doty, it's about, just looking at the spring game on Sunday, for instance. I noticed, maybe you're rushing a ball a little bit. Maybe you're not setting your feet when you throw. Sometimes you're scrambling out of the pocket a little bit. So some small things like that, not to where you're saying, well, the arm talent isn't there. It is. There's a lot of physical ability. And throughout the spring, he did a really nice job. Did that always translate on Sunday? No. But again, there's odd circumstances in that game. Go through and break down who's on the field when, for each of the different quarterbacks, who's on the lines, who's at DB, who's at receiver. Those are all different things. I mean, this spring game was not typical. And again, even more so than most years, you probably shouldn't take that much away. And just like Doty has some things to continue working on, Colton Gauthier, true freshman, still learning, still adjusting. Jason Brown, yes, has more experience at the collegiate level, but a completely different level, different type of offense. Still has some catching up to do. And again, the coaching staff basing these decisions on the pecking order on production in the spring. They're not picking the decision out of a hat, not a popularity contest. Everybody wants to win. And so where do things stand right now? And I think right now we have a good picture of that.
Let's shift it to quarterback recruiting, Chris. Obviously, most and all major programs, I would say, try to take a quarterback every year. South Carolina has focused in on now Braden Davis from Delaware, a kid that we've actually talked about, I would say, quite a bit here on the show. But now it comes down, we talked about how a decision could be coming soon. Now we find out on Monday that a decision is going to come Friday, 6 o'clock. That is on Instagram Live, which seems to be the place all the kids want to make their announcements now. And South Carolina, Chris, I think we're at that point. We feel like they're in pretty good shape. I don't think we quite have that, at least as far as I'm concerned, that complete confirmation that we normally like to have to where we can say for sure we feel good about their spot. But it's kind of that situation where we're going to keep sort of trying to figure this out. But going into it, you do feel pretty decent, I think, about where they sit.
Yeah, and I think, down to that top final 7 schools. And, I think, Wes, a lot of people have considered – there have been a few that have been maybe at the upper echelon of that top 7, South Carolina being one of them. A lot of people sort of looked at Georgia Tech and wondered about them. But putting the pieces together with what we've heard, with what we know, it does seem like, South Carolina is poised here and in the best spot. And so this is a kid that out of Delaware again, that they've really honed in on. Yes, there's a Marshawn Lloyd, Debo Williams, Delaware connection there. And a really interesting talent because there's a lot of upside here. A lot of upside. This morning I actually talked to Braden Davis's high school coach. So stay tuned on some of that content later. That'll be exclusive GamecockCentral.com subscriber stuff at some point. But he had some great comments just about, this is the right type of kid, in short. That's something that's really attracted a lot of schools with some of his leadership abilities, the type of kid, the type of work ethic he has. And then you look at him, Wes, he's a big framed kid who's athletic, can run even more than he shows on film, and has come a ways as a passer and is still, continuing to develop nicely there.
Well, I think, Chris, he is a throw first quarterback who has the athleticism and the size to run when he needs to. It's sort of what I take away from him. And as you said, continues to hone in on the passing game side of things. And really, to me, man, you look, this is massive. This is a massive decision for South Carolina as far as the recruiting class goes, and needing to have sort of that one. You have to have a quarterback in each class for the most part. And if you're going to recruit other skill guys, you need for them to sort of have a guy coming in with them, I feel like. And, we've talked about recruiting momentum quite a bit, and to build some recruiting momentum going into June, if they can get him on Friday, to me, that sort of sets them up. Now if receivers come in, you got to talk about, hey, here's the quarterback that's coming in with you. That things like that help, I think, with other skill guys. And yes, we've talked about the young quarterbacks that are already on the roster, and you're going to point those out to recruits. But most recruits, in my experience, like to come in with a quarterback in their own class as well. So I think, we've talked about Antonio Williams and how big of a target he is for them. Well, if you're going to go out and sign a bunch of receivers and tight ends and stuff like that, then they want to come in with a quarterback, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it can be, obviously, we talk about this a lot. Quarterback is the most important position on the field, most important position in a recruiting class, obviously, because you want to sign a good one every year and go from there. But it's also one, like you said, man, that can be sort of a centerpiece a little bit. These receivers, these tight ends, these backs, being able to point to, hey, here's who we have coming in. We've got this 6'4", 6'5" kid who's a talented runner, talented passer. He can get the football to you, and selling that certainly helps. Something that comes up, big-time programs are going to sign big-time quarterbacks, and so you want to be on a level playing field with that.
So, we'll obviously have coverage of that on Friday. Chris, we've been promising we're going to talk a little bit about the Atlanta Rivals camp we were both at on Sunday, pretty much all day on Sunday. So let's and we're actually up against it again here as far as the time, but let's focus in on one guy each. Who do you want to profile? Who do you want to tell everybody about that just caught your attention on Sunday?
Man, there could be several there, I think. This is the one that popped in my head, and I may steal your guy. I apologize if so. But since you mentioned Antonio Williams, his running mate at Dutch Fork, Devin Hyatt, I thought was really good on Sunday. I was really curious to see him, seen him before, and I think he has really grown and developed as a player a lot. Size-wise, he was bigger than I thought, bigger than the last time I saw him. So he's filled out his frame. Great competitiveness. Did a really good job down the field. He's a guy that can win the ball in the air, get himself open, deep ball guy. I was really, really impressed by Devin Hyatt. He also got some love from the Rivals.com, national analysts that were there. I think he's made 2 different sort of awards or top offensive performers. He's been mentioned in 2 of those pieces since the camp on Sunday.
And we'll have an article. I think probably actually I'm going to go ahead and run it later on today, Chris. We'll have an article with him talking about the latest in his recruitment. South Carolina has already offered. They're very much in it. You'd imagine Tennessee's going to be in it as well with his brother being there. But the Gamecocks are in the conversation. You'll have to you'll have to go read the article. I can't remember exactly what he said about when he wants to visit, but if I recall correctly, he's going to be in June, maybe even will camp with South Carolina. But Justin Stepp, you can tell he came in and made sure to take care of the in-state guys first, as far as making sure that they had offers, or if they already had offers, that they knew they had re-offers from this staff as well. So Stepp certainly has made him a priority. And tell you, man, he's taller than I suspected. I didn't realize that he's quite as tall as he is. So that was a positive surprise. And by the way, you did steal my guy. That's exactly who I was going for. Chris knows I've got a soft spot for receivers for some reason. So I always go with wide receivers. I'm surprised you didn't pick a DB.
Well, I was going to say, and now that I thought through it, that was honestly the first guy that popped in my head. And then I'm like, yeah, he was really good. I should have gone with my other guy that I kept talking up, that then I wanted to then convert to a DB. Remember? Adam Hopkins out of the 23 class,
Yes.
I thought was one of the best receivers. And then I go over and say, hey, man, what about this guy as a DB? And Wes rolled his eyes at me. So,
yeah, Chris wants to make everybody a DB. So my guy, I'm gonna take the easy route here and go with the GC Live alum Oscar Delp.
yeah.
Dude, I mean, this guy, y'all, I gotta tell you, if there's no such thing as a sure prospect, like there's literally, it doesn't exist. Clowney was like as close to a sure prospect, but then even athletically, it was all there. But there's you can come up with a question for any prospect, right? But Delp as a tight end, he pretty much just makes everything look so easy that you kind of say he's definitely going to be a successful college football player, right? Like you never, I think you're always looking at like, okay, here's best case scenario for a prospect. Here's worst case scenario with prospect. With Delp, the worst case scenario is like up here. Does that make sense? Like I feel like if he was on a college roster right now and literally as a senior in high school, and the veteran tight ends just all of a sudden couldn't play for a week, and you were like, hey, man, go catch some passes. He'd fit right in because he's already a big kid. He runs good routes. He catches the football well. Good ball skills. I mean, I'm sure all guys like that are going to have to develop some as blockers, dealing with the bigger and stronger guys at the SEC level. But he's got size. Most tight ends these days are like sort of receiver, like wide receivers that are going to have to grow into a tight end spot. Delp, yeah, he'll put on some muscle when he gets to college, but he already has a frame to where he's like a true what I would call dual threat tight end, that he has the size to block, but also is going to be really good in the passing game. So Delp took home, technically it was like the receiver of the day award, receiver MVP, even though obviously he is a tight end. But man, there were some really good tight ends at the thing. Delp was right up there. Max Johnson, the quarterback at LSU, his brother is a stud tight end. Look out for him. Is he already committed to LSU? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
look out for him down the road, y'all. This kid is really talented, huge dude that knows how to use his frame to go catch the football as well. So look out for him down the road. But yes, Delp would probably be my guy among many, kids that I think we could have mentioned. But Delp's just so easy to mention because it's like an easy eval. Some guys you sort of go back and forth if you're evaluating. Delp, a very easy evaluation. Reed asking if Delp has his official visit set up. He does. That will obviously be a huge weekend for South Carolina. And there's two big weekends at this point. June 11th, June 25th. His is the 25th, right, Chris?
That's right.
Yeah, so June 25th for Delp. You got to think, man, if you're Carolina, you're getting sort of a little bit of that later official, compared to as far as the month of June goes. He's going to take a Georgia official in there. You just pull out all the stops and tell this guy, hey, we're going to use our tight ends. We're going to get you the football and go from there. And I think he's another guy. Probably it helps to get a quarterback committed with a kid like this as well, man.
Yeah, for sure. Delp's going to be considering a lot of factors. And I think a big one, Wes, is going to be, we talked about it with him on Sunday. Got a story up on GamecockCentral.com, I think on Monday morning about it. He's really looking at tight end usage. So that's something that South Carolina is going to harp on, and again, to not just spring game, totality of the spring, South Carolina threw the ball to the tight ends a lot. It's something that even publicly the coaches have talked about, and it's been a selling point for them on the recruiting trail as well to Oscar Delp, who's certainly been the top target at tight end. It's just how they're structuring the offense, the type of looks they want to get him in. Oscar Delp knows, sort of a paraphrase quote from him. He said, I know it's up to tight ends to get open, but basically what's the offense look like? How are they going to get him the ball? So he was planning on watching back the spring game. He's already seen practice film from Columbia, from what the Gamecocks are planning, and that's just one of many, sort of storylines and selling points that South Carolina is really going to be trying to use with Oscar Delp because it's very important to him.
No doubt. All right, so that's an hour. That's going to do it for today's show. Appreciate the time. Appreciate our new buddy Mac for coming on as our Gamecock Central fan of the day, and appreciate y'all letting us preach a little bit. I hate when I listen to other shows and people sound like they're telling people how they have to feel. That's really not that's not the intention. But also, it's just been such a thing for the last 3.5 days that I felt like we had to talk about it again. That there's no conspiracy theory here. But again, hope it didn't come across like I said, like preachy, because I do hate that when I hear that from other people, other shows. You can feel however you want, but there is no conspiracy theory. So for Chris, I'm Wes. Appreciate everybody for the support. Appreciate everybody in the chat, all the commenters. Rate, review, subscribe on YouTube. Rate, review, subscribe on podcast platforms. And we'll see you all on Friday. We'll talk some Gamecock baseball. Probably have Colin Taylor on. And, of course, we're going to preview the big decision coming from Gamecocks quarterback target Braden Davis. So we'll see you then. Y'all have a good one.